A very common belief people have in manifestation is that other people are separate from them, that everyone has their own independent mind, their own fixed thoughts, and no matter what you do internally, it cannot influence what someone else thinks or feels about you. People believe that if someone is ignoring them, rejecting them, or not choosing them, then that person has their own will, and there is nothing you can do except wait, chase, or try to convince them externally. This belief sounds logical, it sounds realistic, and honestly, it is what most of the world agrees with. But this is exactly where people unknowingly block themselves. Because if you truly accept that other people are completely separate from your inner world, then manifestation in relationships becomes almost impossible. Neville Goddard challenges this belief completely. He says consciousness is the only reality, and everything and everyone you experience is filtered through your own consciousness. Which means what you consistently think and assume about a person is not staying inside your head, it is being expressed and reflected back to you through them. Now, this is where the idea of thought transmission comes in, and I want you to really stay with me here, because if you understand this deeply, it can change how you approach manifestation forever. Thought transmission simply means that what you think and assume internally can be received and reflected by another person. Not because you are forcing them, not because you are controlling them like some kind of puppet, but because at a deeper level, there is only one consciousness expressing itself in different forms. So when you change your inner conversation about someone, you are actually changing how that version of them shows up in your reality. Think about it like this. Have you ever noticed that when you assume someone likes you, you naturally behave more relaxed, more confident, more open, and somehow they respond better to you? And on the other hand, when you assume someone is losing interest or ignoring you, you start overthinking, you feel anxious, you might even act differently, and suddenly their behavior matches that assumption. Most people think this is just psychology, but it goes deeper than that. It is not just your behavior changing, it is the entire interaction being shaped by your internal state. Neville explains that prayer or imagination is not just something you do for yourself, it is something that influences the entire field of consciousness. When you imagine someone thinking about you, missing you, loving you, and you do it from a place of calm certainty, not desperation, you are planting a seed in consciousness. And because there is no real separation, that seed must express itself through the person you are focused on. But here is where most people go wrong. They hear about thought transmission and they start trying too hard. They sit there repeating affirmations with tension, constantly checking their phone, constantly wondering if it is working, constantly doubting. And then, when nothing happens immediately, they conclude that this does not work. But the problem is not the principle. The problem is the state from which they are thinking. The law does not respond to your words. It responds to your state. If your thoughts are coming from lack, from fear, from desperation, then what you are actually transmitting is not love or confidence. You are transmitting insecurity and need. And that is exactly what gets reflected back to you. The person may pull away, they may act cold, or they may simply not show up the way you want, and it reinforces your negative belief. On the other hand, when your thoughts come from a place of already having, already being chosen, already being loved, everything changes. You are no longer trying to make something happen. You are simply dwelling in a reality where it is already true. And from that state, your thoughts become powerful without effort. You are not forcing anything, you are not chasing anything, you are just being. This is why Neville always emphasized feeling. Because feeling is what impresses the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is what connects everything. When you feel that someone cares about you, when you feel that they think about you positively, when you feel secure in that connection, that feeling is what gets transmitted. And over time, it must reflect. You might have even experienced moments where someone randomly texted you just when you were thinking about them deeply. Most people call it coincidence. But when you start understanding thought transmission, you begin to see a pattern. It is not about one thought here and there. It is about consistent inner assumption. Consistency is everything here. If one moment you are imagining them loving you, and the next moment you are thinking they have moved on or they do not care, you are sending mixed signals into consciousness. And what you receive back will also be mixed. One day they might show interest, the next day they might disappear. It will feel unstable because your inner state is unstable. So the real work is not about trying to change them directly. The real work is about stabilizing your own mind. It is about choosing a story and sticking to it. If your story is that this person loves you, values you, and wants to be with you, then you have to consistently return to that story no matter what the current reality shows. And I know this is where it gets challenging, because the 3D world can be very convincing. If they are not texting, if they are acting distant, your mind immediately wants to react. But this is exactly where your power lies. Are you going to let the outer world control your inner state, or are you going to let your inner state reshape the outer world? Thought transmission is not about controlling someone else's free will. It is about aligning with a version of them that already exists in consciousness. There are infinite versions of every person. A version that loves you, a version that ignores you, a version that is confused, a version that is committed. The version you experience depends on the assumptions you hold. So when you change your thoughts, you are not changing them as a person. You are shifting to a reality where they naturally show up differently. And that shift happens through your consistent inner focus. A very important part of this is making it feel natural. If you are sitting there trying to convince yourself with force, repeating things that you do not believe, it creates resistance. Instead, you want to gently guide your thoughts. You can imagine small scenes, like them smiling when they see your name, them thinking about you during the day, them feeling drawn to you. Keep it light, keep it natural, and most importantly, enjoy the feeling. When you enjoy the feeling, you remove the neediness from it. You are no longer doing it to get something. You are doing it because it feels good to experience it internally. And that is when it becomes powerful. Another thing to understand is that you do not need to monitor the process. Once you have impressed a thought with feeling, you do not need to keep checking if it worked. The more you check, the more you come back into doubt. Trust that what you have done internally is enough and continue to live your life with that assumption. Over time, you will notice subtle shifts. Maybe they start thinking about you more. Maybe they reach out unexpectedly. Maybe their tone changes. Maybe they start showing more interest. These are all reflections of the inner shift that has already happened. And sometimes it can be so precise that it almost feels unbelievable. People have experienced others saying the exact words they have been affirming internally, not because they forced them, but because they consistently occupied a state where that was natural. So if you really want to use thought transmission consciously, stop trying to change them and start changing your relationship with them in your mind. Start seeing them differently. Start thinking of them differently. Start feeling about them differently. And do it in a way that feels calm, stable, and certain. Because at the end of the day, what you experience is not coming from them, it is coming through them. And when you truly understand that, you stop chasing, you stop forcing, and you start creating. I hope this helped you. I will meet you with another golden nugget soon. Happy manifesting.